Okay, let's take a look at a couple practice problems that'll help you with your next homework assignment. So in both of these problems, one of the things I want you to think about is every single account that we track is going to have this pattern to its activity. We'll have a beginning balance. To that we will add increases. We'll subtract decreases. And of course that'll give us an ending balance. So that basic function can be applied to all of these different scenarios. So in this first case here, they want us to compute the amount of cash flow associated with the sale of investment securities. Well, I can see my investment securities went from 110,000 down to 102. So it decreased by 8,000. Down here it tells us we incurred a $3,000 loss on the sale of investment securities. So in this case there was no increase. So I've got 110,000 down to 102. That's an $8,000 decrease. So if I sold something that cost me $8,000, so I gave something to somebody else that cost me $8,000, if I incurred a $3,000 loss, then I must have received $5,000. I must have collected cash of $5,000 for the sale of that investment. The next one, we have old machinery with a book value of 8,000, so a cost of 34 minus accumulated depreciation of 26 was sold. The income statement showed a gain on the sale of machinery of $7,500. So first of all, I want to look at the cash flow associated with the purchase of machinery. So in this case here, machinery went from 465 to 480, but I know it decreased by 34 because I sold something. So here's where I can say, I want to know how much it increased by. I know how much it decreased by, and I know my starting and I know my ending. So in this case, I started at 465. It went down by 34,000, and I ended at 480. So I can find the missing number that makes that equation work, which is $49,000. Another way to do that, the way I like doing it, is to say, well, I know that I sold machinery costing 34,000. So if I didn't do anything else at all, if all I did was start at 465 and sell 34,000, I should have ended at 431. That would have been my ending balance if I didn't buy anything. Well, I didn't end at 431, I ended at 480. So how did I get from 431 to 480? I must have bought 49,000 worth of something. Okay, the next one is the cash flow associated with the sale of machinery. So in this case here, I want to recognize that I had a book value of 8,000 and I had a gain on the sale of the machinery of 7,500. So if I take something that has a net cost, a net book value of 8,000, and I have a gain of 7,500, then in that case I must have received 15,500 from that. Okay, the next one here is the cash flow associated with the sale of land. So in this case here, I can see my land went down by $20,000. That was my cost of the land, and it says I incurred a $4,000 loss. Well, if land went from 95 to 75, it meant that it went down by $20,000. So if I had a $4,000 loss on something that cost me $20,000, I must have sold it or I must have received $16,000. So these problems are all ways of figuring out how much I received or how much I spent. Remember, for the statement of cash flows, what we care about is cash in and cash out. So the next problem I want to show you is exercise 12-13. So this is very similar, but in this case we're talking about liabilities and common stock. This one's a little bit easier. So in this case here, it says compute the amount of cash flow associated with the issuance of bond liabilities. It says I didn't repay any during the period. So I know that this increase from 150 to 200 must have been from issuing $50,000 worth of bonds. So I issued 50,000 of bonds and received that cash. The next thing they say is or they asked for, is the cash flow associated with the issuance of common stock. So my common stock went from 400,000 to 250, so I must have issued 250,000. Now the way the financing activity section will look is I'll have cash flows from financing activities, issued bonds payable of 50,000, issued common stock of 250, payment of cash dividends, that's part of the financing activities of negative 50, that's cash outflow. So the net amount that flowed in from financing activities was 250,000. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Thank you.